So for this episode of My Hero Academia Season 5, Episode 2, Dabi is already lost in every way. Leaving aside all the crimes he has committed and all those he intended to commit, surely the issue is obviously clinically insane. So there is no possible redemption for him. He is objectively worse. He killed dozens of people and is working basically to collapse society as much as possible. Then Endeavor and his actions, and Endeavor isn't even being redeemed, he's atoning for it. He's admitting to his responsibilities. People like Dabi aren't the people who are making the world a beautiful place, bearing the place to survive. He spikes and fuels the monster inside. He's making people suffer. He doesn't even care about the rest of his family, those being Endeavor and Shoto. He doesn't even care about his favorite sibling, Natsuo, which is his younger brother. He wished, death upon him just so he could make Endeavor suffer a little bit more. His obsession is just on a whole nother level. Dabi is consumed with revenge and hatred to the point he can't be brought back to his senses or be redeemed. The best he might get is a small regret before he dies trying to hurt his family, or at least locked up. He will certainly prefer death before having to back down from his goals. Honestly, not everyone can be saved, and many are lost. This manga has several of those despite the redemption fantasies of a part of the fandom. We can kind of figure out how long that was. Based on the 8 generations of the holders of One for All, so it's probably like around 200 or 300 years. I think we're around the quirks starting to form, so the first generation of quirk holders, they probably had a difficult time. It's like a odd theory, just like from the movie The X-Men, where their powers are perceived to be dangerous to the society of people that are regular folks that don't have those abilities, and they're scared of the people, just like on Attack on Titan, they're scared of the people who can wield these powers, but can they wield them responsibly is the question. One for All is the strongest ability. That wasn't even a quirk. My bad. All for One is quirk. It wasn't even his quirk that was dangerous. It was his charisma. He basically started he was a whole cult. He was the cult leader. The amount of influence he was able to obtain, especially with the part about his followers killing for the sake without him even ordering them to do it. Seeing Hawk as a child like clinging to Endeavor's toy rather than All Might's toy kind of had me feeling a little salty, but it's definitely well earned because he can relate to Endeavor, always striving for his goals despite not being gifted with godlike powers like All Might. Probably the most genuine thought right now is how he ended up like that. My thoughts is the quirk singularity, where quirks are too powerful for their user to control, but specifically for One for All. Think about it. Why All Might, when he got One for All, his body didn't shatter, but Deku's did? Because due to the stocking piling, it's significantly more powerful now than it was for All Might. What will happen if Deku passes it on now? Would it even be survivable? I think it's where the urgency of defeating All for One comes in, as I bet that All for One is ending with Deku, as it will kill the next line from being too strong. I haven't really read the spoilers too much, I believe that the singularity was mentioned when Bakugo and Todoroki were babysitting those kids. Each generation of quirks getting stronger as they pass on and develop. It was theorized way in the beginning of My Hero that the singularity is out of control. We're getting to a point where there's no return, and if we don't find a cure to relieve people of these quirks, their body's not going to be able to handle them as a vessel. Bakugo's his parents have relatives that has useless quirks for combat, but they can combine to make a kid who can shoot nitrogen explosions. What I love about Hawks and his introduction is he was first introduced, he seemed a bit off and sketchy, and while it was revealed he does in fact have some secret stuff going on with him, it turns out further cements the reason why he is so great. Interesting premise. He has an extremely natural talent, but he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. Also, he's willing to get his hands dirty while doing his work. Sort of a sub version of a traditional heroism. Probably out of everyone, even some of the main characters, he embodies the spirit of what it means to be a hero the most. He has extremely powerful abilities, but we see it less for the physical combat and primarily to be used to rescue. First, because he recognizes that most important, he's the only one to call out hero billboard chart, and how flawed a ranking system and generally really is helping unravel that flaw their society has put them in. He makes the danger of moving himself a triple agent, working for the heroes, villains, and the police, because he knows the right things that needs to be done. And I truly believe that going forward, he's going to really show some interesting premise. Hawks knows to be someone to look up to. He's popular, but he doesn't want to be himself. The reason why he wants Endeavor to do this is because he notices Endeavor's the only one who thought that he could put up with a lot of work and put in the work that is needed in order to catch up to All Might's standards. He even rose to the top of the hero build parts billboard very quickly. So quickly that he financially supported his family, leaving and running a whole agency by himself at the age of 19. That in itself is impressive. He even got the nickname the man who goes too far. Like, that right there says a lot with just so little words. He would have to be very active in order to stay in the top 10, which only shows an example when he had an intern and his intern couldn't even keep up with him. So if that doesn't say anything about how impressive his skill sets are, I don't know what is. But for Hawk's quirk, it may just look like a few feathers, but they're also unique in a few aspects. His quirk's name is Fury Wings, and it starts with a quantum pair of bright giant red wings that can stimulate and manipulate each feather using telekinesis from his mind. That is impressive. He can shoot out different feathers in various different directions and perform them with individual tasks that can carry a person individually, and even seen that he can carry stones and building blocks from when Endeavor fought the Nomu. And he did that with hardly any time in an instant to even think about it, allowing them to be rescue blocks away. So to say that he can multitask is an understatement. Now, they can individually be returned to him, each feather, if they're not damaged or tarnished. Now, the only downside to this is if he runs out of feathers, then it would take 2 days for them to recover. Now, we know that Hawks isn't that, dumb to where he would just not keep a few feathers with him. And each feather is different, because one could be as sharp as a blade that he used to slice opponents, that could literally slice stone. And then you have feathers, just like ordinary feathers, that are used for him to fly. And in order for him to be able to fly, if he used all his feathers, he would have to wait a few days. Now, like I said, he's too smart for that, for him to not be seen that it leads him to a disadvantage. Now, in society where he basically has tons of free time from his perspective and his long-term goal, to where heroes don't have to rescue everyone every few seconds, and crime rates will be at an all-time low with a new hero society standard. But that's not where we know that's where that's leading to, because if the League of Villains have a say in it, they'll flip that idea upside down, because you can't just tell them to go with your plan and submit. Dabi knew that he was plotting against him. That's why he didn't trust him in the first place, because he knew that he still had a good heart, because he didn't let a single person die. Like, he made sure that he did everything in his ability to save every single life that he could, while also helping Endeavor with that Nomu that he was testing. In all honesty, he wouldn't have really cared if Endeavor would have died, despite it being his father and his revenge that he so desperately wanted. He's so crazy and insane that all he wants to see is a massacre, a slaughter, because the world to him is already corrupt and deranged, and it has rejected him, and he refuses to believe that there are people out there who genuinely can be redeemed and changed. He automatically assumes that people are just sick and society just needs to burn. He's just stuck in his own mind. That's why he needs to be stopped by his family. His family has to come through with full support along with the Hero Society in order to make this issue don't become a huge crisis, which it will soon be because of how it's still being handled. There's a lot of family issues that needs to be addressed and resolved, especially his family, Shoto's family, episode. It was particularly good for me. Fumi, who quickly forgave Endeavor, that he showed some level of remorse. Natsuo, from the viewer perspective, said that what he did was unforgivable, and no matter what he does, he can never be forgiven for his actions. Shoto, who is willing to eat alongside his family, despite the fact that his father isn't the best, isn't in the best position to be sitting at the table alongside him, stays neutral through this whole interaction by just commenting with a smart remark about his scar and sitting there just peacefully eating his food. In Deku's dream, in the vestiges, he sees the 7 successors. Of course, Deku couldn't speak, he couldn't even walk, he could hardly even touch his nose. But he's seen the lineup, and Deku is called the 9th. But where's All Might? Shouldn't he be right next to Deku? Making Deku the 10th is one of these other shadows supposed to be All Might. I feel like it should be obvious that All Might is the successor since he gave up on One For All to Deku. But I already know that All Might is alive, so he hasn't successfully transferred over to One For All just yet. He's still processing over. So since he's living, this is like a unique condition because Deku's the only first person to really see the vestiges. So we don't get to see in person how this process really works out. So this is all new, and it's all from Deku's perspective. Now, what was brought up in season 2 when All Might told Izuku the origins of One For All, he phrased One For All had a quirkless younger brother. For reasons unknown, he forced a stockpiling quirk onto him. Turns out the younger brother did have a quirk, and he had the ability to pass on quirks, but with the quirk that his older brother gave him was a stockpiling power, which he fused with his own quirk, which became known as One For All. I've been very interested in the story behind All For One and his brother for a while. So this episode gave me a lot of what I wanted. Now if only I can get a little bit more. We could also get to see more of Endeavor's redemption arc, which I think can be handled pretty well so far. It's being handled well. He's sorry and he knows that saying it isn't enough. He needs to atone with action. And the only way he can do that is what he said in the previous season before it concluded, that he would redeem himself as Endeavor. I have been looking at Hawks playing a very dangerous attempt at infiltrating. I don't get how some viewers thought that he secretly was a villain. He wouldn't have assisted Endeavor like he did otherwise. And previously, in the ending credits, he anticipated being discovered as a kid and then raised and trained by the Hero Commission. That lady gave me a stronger Edema Walter vibe, while Hawks is even more on kind of a cursory. Well, his wings are like, Endeavor or Dabi. I don't think whoever would have the worst scar. I would say Dabi would have the worst scar. See, the complex situation of Todoroki, his family, is highlighted. Inju, who looks fully aware that a few months of being nicer won't fix anything, which is Endeavor's wife, and is unsure of what Endeavor could do for his children. He will have to handle this in a whole different manner and method with each individual child, addressing the issue and approaching them from different angles, because each child is unique. Natsuo being the most direct and unafraid to speak up, which could be the reason as Enchi may have talked back or worse in the past before letting Natsuo win. And Fumi, who's clearly trying to pick up the pieces, also cute and funny that a boy has become a meme. We also see that in the very last scene, and of course, anime had revealed to us was the vestiges in the origin of both All for One and One for All, who benefited more primarily All for One, that benefited from the chaos caused by the emergence of quirks and the emergency crises that were taking place, and possibly gained a god complex from there. And One for All, as the next episode that anticipates class versus class exercise begin, is going to stay in a back burning for now. So we'll get back to the origin a little bit later. But Deku, you shouldn't use One for All for some solo activities in the room. Sorry, but that's what it looks like to me. But you know, Deku is human, of course, so we all make mistakes from time to time. But I feel like he's going to grasp it pretty well. Well, that's my review of season 5, episode 2. If you was listening for this long, I appreciate your patience with me while I was explaining this. This is just me trying to quickly try to put a review out. Until the next episode, thanks.